So this guy had many lives in hockey. Strong player with the London Knights and the Ottawa 67s. One of the baby bulls in the last year for Birmingham and the WHA. One of the last goalies of the Atlanta Flames before they moved to Calgary. A strong player with the growth years of the Washington Capitals. It was a strong goalie for the Bruins in their mid 1980 Cup contenders. Hero in New Brunswick for the Moncton Golden Flames. Played some really strong contests with Pittsburgh and basically was highly respected no matter where he went. So today we're going to be talking about the legend of the great Pat Riggin. Now Pat Riggin, June 25th, 1959, in Kincardine, Ontario, birth date 5'9", a right shot. Now, he was originally drafted by the London Knights, 33rd overall in 1979, and was eventually selected as the goalie for the London Knights all-time team. Now, over 3 big seasons, he put up some really impressive numbers, with goals against averages of 3.6, 2.95, and 3.65. 29, 48, and 38 goals. He was so good, ladies and gentlemen, that the Ottawa 67s picked him up for the Memorial Cup run in 1977. Now, he's eventually decided to sign as an underage player because he wasn't draft eligible for his 79 campaign. Played with the Birmingham Bulls as their number 1 goalie. 16, 22, and 5 in a regular season with a 3.78 average and 1 shutout. Now, by being drafted by Atlanta, it's very complicated. Now, when he played with the Knights, he was still a teenager when he signed with the Bulls. Now, the Bulls had loaded up on teenage talent who were called the Baby Bulls, exploiting the fact that the NHL at the time drafted players at age 20, meaning the WHA could sign players before they were even draft eligible. Joining Riggin and Birmingham on the Baby Bull side were teenage Blue Lions Gaston Gingras, Rob Ramage, and Craig Hartsford, again, as well as future NHL stars Michel Goulet and Rick Vive up front. Riggin, at just 19, won the starting job in Birmingham over veteran Ernie Wakely, and again posted that 16-25 record. At the end of the season, the WHA suspended operations, making Riggin and the rest of these Baby Bulls teenage teammates draft eligible for the NHL, which eventually most of them were taken. Now, on the strength of his solid junior career and impressive first pro campaign in Birmingham, Riggin was eventually the top-ranked goalie in the draft. Now, Riggin was selected in the second round, 33rd overall, and began his time in a very familiar spot, Birmingham, Alabama, which was now the affiliate of the Atlanta Flames. The Bulls, after the WHA folded, joined the Central Hockey League, and they eventually loaned Riggin to them. He spent just 12 games in the CHL before getting called up to Atlanta, where he backed up veteran Dan Bouchard. Now, prior to the start of his second NHL season, the franchise relocated to Calgary, and his workload increased greatly when Bouchard was dealt to the Nordiques in January. Riggin assumed the starting job, and rookie Regin Lemelin backed him up. That spring, he got his first taste of the Stanley Cup playoffs, though Lemelin was in goal in the first round when the Flames swept the Blackhawks in 3 straight. But after Lemelin dropped the first game in the second round against the Flyers, Riggin made his playoff debut in Game 2 and kicked out 42 shots for the victory. Riggin was even better in Game 3, making 47 saves and a 2-1 win that posted another victory in Game 4 to give the Flames a 3-1 series lead. However, Game 5 was a disaster with Riggin surrendering 9 goals, but then Lemelin lost Game 6, and Riggin was back between the pipes before the decisive 7th game and backstopped the Flames to a 4-1 victory, sending them to the semifinals, where they ultimately lost to Stanley Cup finalists, the Minnesota North Stars. Now, the Flames failed to build on their successful 81 season, and the team and Riggin took a step back the next year. Riggin did play 52 games for Calgary, but posted a career-worst 4.23 goals against average. In an effort to shake things up in the offseason, the Flames traded Riggin along with defenseman Ken Houston to the Washington Capitals for a package of players and draft picks. Now, in Washington, Riggin would platoon with Al Jensen, and both netminders excelled. They had history before being teammates, with both of them dueling during their junior days to be the top goalie in the OHA. Now, Riggin was a first-team All-Star with the Knights in '77, and Jensen a second-team All-Star for Hamilton. The following year, the roles were reversed, with Jensen taking top honors and Riggin on the second team. Now, Riggin did suit up with 38 games his first year in Washington, and the following year played 41 games, winning 21 against 14 losses and a 2.66 goals against average. For their efforts, Riggin and Jensen shared the William N. Jennings Trophy in '84 as the Capitals goalie duo allowed the fewest goals in the NHL. He was also named to the NHL's second All-Star team that year. His third campaign in Washington saw him play a career-high 57 games, in part because of a knee injury sustained by Jensen, and placed among the league leaders for wins and goals against, but playoff success eluded him and the Caps. After being eliminated by the Islanders from the '85 playoffs, Riggin decided to join Team Canada at the World Championships and won a silver medal. However, his brief stint with the national team also created some controversy when Riggin cited as motivation for beating Team USA the fact he was tired of seeing American players taking jobs from Canadians in the NHL. These comments obviously created some controversy playing for the Capitals because the team is situated in the U.S. capital, but also because the roster was led by American players like Bobby Carpenter, Dave Krishna, and team captain Rod Langway. Now, prior to the start of the '86 season, Riggin addressed the comments. There was a bad choice of words on my part, and I think a lot of it was taken out of context. I can't really blame people for being upset, though. I'm going to have to get off to an excellent start to get the fans behind me again. Unfortunately for Riggin, that's not what happened. He got off a slow start with just 2 wins in his first 7 games and found himself packing his stuff after a mid-November trade to the Boston Bruins. Now, Riggin was eventually swapped straight up for goalie Pete Peters, and he once again found himself in a platoon situation with veteran Doug Keens. Riggin got the lion's share of the work with 39 games and led the team in wins and goals against. But come playoff time, Riggin was only given 1 game. When he dropped Game 1 of the playoffs to the Canadiens, the Bruins turned to 19-year-old Bill Ranford for the next 2 games, but the team was swept in 3 straight. It would, however, be a sign of things to come. Ranford assumed the starting job in Boston the following year, and Doug Keens assumed the backup role, leaving Riggin as the odd man out. Riggin got into 10 games with the Bruins before being signed to the AHL in Moncton. He spent 14 games in the AHL before a trade on February 6, '87 got him back to the NHL. Now, the Penguins traded goalie Roberto Romano to Boston for Riggin, and he joined the Penguins team that was relying on a 36-year-old veteran Gilles Meloche to hold down the fort behind a young and inexperienced blue line. Riggin, happy to be given another chance at the NHL level, made an immediate impact for the Penguins. Riggin suited up for 17 games to complete the '87 campaign and was able to record 8 wins against 6 losses and 3 ties, along with a team best goals against average and save percentage. Now, while it looked like Pittsburgh might provide an excellent opportunity for Riggin to reestablish himself, the opposite proved true. The '88 edition of the club struggled defensively, and Riggin saw his goals against average swell to almost 4 and managed just 7 wins in 22 appearances. Ultimately, the emergence of rookie Frank Pietrangelo pushed Riggin out of the crease, and he was signed to the Penguins' IHL franchise, the Muskegon Lumberjacks. Riggin was outstanding with the Lumberjacks that campaign, going 13-2 for the club, but at season's end, get this, ladies and gentlemen, just 28, he retired from pro hockey. Now, could he have kept on as a player? Of course he could have. Quebec Nordiques, Montreal, various teams were interested in him. But like I said, I think what really hurt him, the wear and tear of playing with so many teams. Just look at this, ladies and gentlemen. The 2 versions of the Bull, the London Knights, Ottawa 67s, Atlanta Flames, Calgary Flames, Washington Capitals, Hershey Bears, Boston Bruins, Mountain Golden Flames, Pittsburgh Penguins, Muskegon. That's a lot of pressure in a lot of different situations. And, but some solid NHL totals. Almost 20,000 minutes played, 153, 120, 52, 11 shutouts. And again, the best season, like I said, in '84, where he had 21, 14, and 2 and 4 shutouts. 3.43 goals against average, 88% save percentage. And in the playoffs, 8 and 13, the majority of those victories in Calgary's Frozen Four run in 1981, where he became, again, a big hero to Flames fans. By the way, this request is coming from our good friend Bo Sheaves from Woodstock, New Brunswick. Bo has a big fascination with some of the goalies of the 1980s and 90s, were not just primarily backups, were solid, number twos or shared duties. And Bo is a great fan of hockey, especially some of the goalies and players that have been what they call unheralded since the end of their careers, especially the Nordiques back end like Mario Marois, Pat Price. You've been hearing these podcasts. So thank you to Bo. Bo is the type of person like me. He likes to see people remember players that need to be remembered, and I agree with him. A lot of the players we're covering here may not seem to be household words maybe to you, but learning more about their career might open your eyes as to how good the talent was in the NHL in the 1980s and 90s, because especially between the pipes, we had a lot of good players. And we're going to talk about another one very soon, Bob Freeze. So we'll go from there. Good name for a hockey player, eh? Bob Freeze. Thanks for listening.